Hey guys, welcome to another episode of AKP Sports Talk. You know who it is. We've been doing this for a little while. It's your favorite two, Ari, Korea. Ari, how you feeling? We're 6 days from Selection Show Sunday. How are you feeling right now?
Yep, I'm feeling really good. We're getting, as you said, a lot closer, 6 days away from arguably the best day of the year, one of the best days of the year. And for now, we had some big games this past weekend and some big games coming up this week that we'll preview. And yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, you mentioned it. This episode is just pretty much going to be all about college basketball. Let's pretty much just get right into it. Over the weekend, we had some teams punch their ticket into the big dance. First on Saturday night, Murray State, they defeated Morehead State in the Ohio Valley Conference Tournament Championship game to win the conference and officially be in the tournament. Now, Murray State, they were in a pretty safe position either way. They were probably going to be an at-large win with the loss, but they wanted to ensure that they ran this conference from beginning to end, winning every single game within the within the Ohio Valley Conference, and winning the tournament as well, beating Southeast Missouri State in the semis before beating Morehead State in the championship. Murray State 30-2 on the year. I think they finished, I believe, number 20 or number 19 in the latest AP poll. Dominant team. They've always been projected around that 7 through 9 seed line. So that's going to be they're a very scary team. They score the ball a lot. They have some dynamic scores. Obviously, we know this Murray State team. A lot of people know this team from 2019 with some kid named John Morant, and we see how he's doing in the NBA. What is this Murray State team? Are they actually for real? Are they going to win a first-round matchup, whoever they get faced with? And what did you think of Murray State this weekend? Are they pretty much Sweet 16 dangerous threat? How we feeling?
Yeah, I mean, as we always say, matchups matter a lot. So we'll see what seed they are and who they match up with in the first round, potentially second round. But I mean, they're a top 20 team in the country for a reason. So they're definitely, they definitely have a chance to win at least one game, if not two, if not, make a run even deeper. They were led by Tevin Brown and Justice Hill this past weekend, who both dropped over 20. Johnny Broom had 32 for Morehead State. Morehead State kept it close for most of the way. I think they're down to like 1.5. They only lost by 4, so they kept it close. But the biggest factor in Murray State winning was rebounds. They out-rebounded them 47-31 with 18 offensive rebounds. That getting those 16 extra shots. Overall rebounds and 18 extra shots on the offensive glass obviously makes a huge difference. And it was only a 4-point game, so that was definitely the biggest factor. We'll see who they match up with. I don't know. I feel like obviously they're in a smaller conference, but I feel like running the table like they did and being ranked to the top 20 team, they could be like a 5 or 6 seed. But obviously 6 days, we'll find out in 6 days, so time will tell.
Yeah, you mentioned it. Their only 2 losses on the season came very, very early in non-conference play. Their first one was bad neutral game loss against East Tennessee State, and their only second loss of the season was at Auburn, number 12 team in the country, Auburn, by only 13. So this team is competing with high-level competition. They have beat Memphis. Like, are we forgetting this team beat Memphis on the road? That's a great win for this program.
And now Memphis is on a tear right now. So that's
exactly. So this is making Murray State look even better, considering how well Memphis is playing down the stretch, putting themselves into the tournament. So Murray State, very dangerous team heading into the tournament. Obviously, you mentioned it. They're obviously a high-scoring team, and you mentioned KJ Williams averaging almost 20 points a game, and then Tevin Brown and Justice Hill. They pretty much round out that offense for Murray State. The Racers obviously just out-rebounded Morehead State, and shout out to Morehead State. They played very competitively against this team. Morehead State will probably be going to like a CIT or little postseason tournament. But great one for Murray State. Obviously, they are a dangerous team. If they get matched up correctly, obviously we'll see. We'll find out in 6 days. But if they do get matched up correctly with like a vulnerable 8 seed or someone trending the wrong direction, like a Michigan State, for example, like they could easily win that game just because of how offensive they are. And then we'll see what happens in the second round, but Murray State is a very dangerous team. Right now, I do have them as a 9 seed in my latest bracketology. They will be matched up, I believe, against Seton Hall out of I have them against Seton Hall in the first round out of the Big East. So, just very two big programs. They've both been here before. Murray State, congratulations. You're going dancing. Great year for the Racers. But now we're going to move on to the second team that clinched early Sunday morning. The Longwood Lancers won the Big South regular season, had a little bit of a struggle getting through the first couple games, but a dominant showing against Winthrop in their Big South championship game brought them their first ever tournament appearance, plunging themselves into the field of 68. Longwood, they've been projected to be around a 15 seed. Great win yesterday for the Lancers. Congratulations, you're going dancing for the first time ever. All right, what'd you take away from their big win on Sunday morning? Is this team, destined to pull it off? Can we see another Oral Roberts kind of run from this team? They look like they'd have some big size in interior. They do have a couple shooters on the outside, but what do you think of Longwood? What do you think of the Lancers?
Yeah, I don't know too much about them, but I know they ran through Winthrop in the championship. They were up by 18.5 and won by 21. I mean, again, especially it's even more so the case with these like 15, 14 seeds in terms of upsets, in terms of who they match up with. I mean, they scored almost 80 points, so they have the offense. And, one of the teams we've been mentioning for a while as a vulnerable high seed is Auburn against a good offense. So, I mean, we'll see who they get matched up with. If they get matched up with Auburn, that could be a close game. But again, we'll see who they get matched up with, and I think that will really say a lot. But I believe you said it's their first ever appearance. Obviously, that's great for the school, for the players, for everyone. So, congrats to the Lancers.
Yeah, I mean, we mentioned big shout out to Longwood, but pretty much one of the big things is, you mentioned it, they're a high scoring offense. They score about 76 points a game, and they're so dependent on their pretty much two guys, one of them being Justin Hill, the guard, and then obviously Isaiah Wilkins. That's pretty much their 1-2 combo. Justin Hill averages about 15 points a game, right around 14, and then Wilkins is about 13. So they really depend on their two-man guards along with Deshaun Wade. That's pretty much the big three. They played pretty much all games this year, except for Hill, who's only missed a couple games. But this team is very offensive, and if they get matched up with the team that does not have a strong offense, and they get out strong, this could be another crazy year. We never know. But shout out to the Longwood Lancers. Great run throughout the Big South. I have them right now as a 15. I have them playing Kansas in the first round. That'll be an intriguing matchup to see, but congratulations to the Lancers. Moving on into the NCAA tournament, and the final one so far, 3 out of 32 automatic bids. The third one has most recently gone to the Loyola Chicago Ramblers. Well, look who it is. Loyola Chicago's back. This team, they seem to never go away. Shout out Sister Jean. She's already in her hundreds, and she's still watching this team, giving them some inspiration. But seriously now, Loyola Chicago, they were the 4 seed in the Missouri Valley Conference. They beat down Bradley in the first round. The big question was whether or not they're going to get past Northern Iowa to, make it to the championship game. They whooped them easy. They wanted a statement win. They got that statement win. And that pretty much ensured them that they're in the tournament, because we mentioned it last week. They were always in on that bubble because they weren't first in the Missouri Valley Conference, but they wanted to do it themselves. Loyola ran the table. They beat Bradley. They beat Northern Iowa, and then they beat Drake in the championship game yesterday. Very good game, by the way, as well. It came down to the wire. Loyola Chicago got the win, edging out Drake back-to-back years, Missouri Valley Conference champions. Before they leave to the A10, I even forgot this was their last year in the Missouri Valley Conference, so Loyola Chicago will now no longer be winning this conference as they move to the Atlantic 10 next season. But Ari, we see them again, Loyola Chicago. They were questions whether or not they would be at large. They don't need to question that anymore. They are automatically qualified as winning the tournament. Where do you see Loyola Chicago? Can they pull off that amazing Final Four run that they did about 4 years ago? Where do you see Loyola going?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a different group of players than that last team for the most part, but I mean, you see even on Twitter, Cameron Krutwick, right? That's his name.
Yeah, Cameron Krutwick.
He was shouting them out on Twitter, so they still have all that love, and as you said, they're a little bit inconsistent in the regular season, but they found that magic in the conference tournament, beating number 1 seed Northern Iowa, and then beating Drake the other day, who's coming off an emotional OT win over Missouri State in the semis. Again, we'll see who they match up with. Where do you have them seeding wise right now, Loyola Chicago?
Right now they're probably going to be around an 11 seed. Since they're AQ, a lot of people have them an 11 seed. I do have them as an 11 seed. Obviously, yeah, you mentioned the guys like Cameron Krutwig, like all these Loyola alum, shouting out this team for making it once again back to the NCAA tournament in back-to-back seasons. One guy that's pretty much been there since that 2018 run when he was a freshman. Now he's kind of the leader of this team. Lucas Williamson, he's averaging about 14 points. He is the leader of this Loyola Chicago team. The thing about this team, though, is they are not very offensive. They average 73 points a game, not 74, but they rely heavily on their defense. And, under first-year head coach Drew Valentine, I can't believe Drew Valentine's already head coaching, but great run for this program. They're probably going to make some noise. I have them as 11 seed right now, playing against Iowa in the first round. But the big question is whether or not they can keep up with a high-scoring offense. And if they do get matched up with, somewhere on that 6th seed who, can shoot the ball well, it may be trouble for Loyola Chicago to kind of keep up. But their defensive prowess is very very good. Honestly, the way they shut down Drake yesterday, their leading scorer, I think it was like Jeffries or some DeVries or whatever his name is. Sorry. But they shut him down yesterday. And that just kind of shows you how Loyola Chicago plays basketball. They play very, very defensive heavy. They want to make sure that, they're turning turnovers into steals into points. So that's pretty much how they run their offense. So Loyola Chicago is going to be interesting to see how they do in the first round, who they're matched up with. But they won them automatic bids, so they don't have to worry about being a bubble team. But now it is officially the real champ week, and we have some conference finals tonight to get into. First off, out of the Sun Belt, a weird final, 8 versus 3. We have the number 8 seed out of that tournament, the Louisiana Raging Cajuns. They are about 500 on the season, 16-14. They will be playing against Georgia State tonight in the Sun Belt Championship, who is 17-10, finished 3rd in the conference. This is kind of a wacky tournament. Louisiana, great run for them. Shout out to the Raging Cajuns. They went on, beat UT Arlington in the first round, beat Texas State in the second round, beat Troy in the third round to get here. So they're just running the table. That's what pretty much that's what we love about conference tournament week, because you never know, any of these teams can get on a hot run and then all of a sudden your favorite teams are now going to the NIT. So Louisiana 15-14 on the season. Georgia State, obviously, they have been here before. They last appeared back in the 2019 season where they did lose.
Was that RJ Hunter, or was that the year before when they had?
I think that was after RJ Hunter, because RJ Hunter was, I think, 2015, and then 2019, I believe they lost to Cincinnati in the first round. But just wackiness of conference tournament week. Sun Belt title. Ari, do you kind of have a favorite? Right now momentum is saying Louisiana, but obviously numbers and metrics are saying Georgia State tonight. Who do you have?
I just want to say shout out former Arizona Wildcat Jordan Brown. He was in Arizona last year. He transferred to Louisiana. He had 31 points in their win against number 1 seed Texas State in the second round, I believe that was. Mm-hmm. And then they kind of handled Troy pretty easily in the semis. Troy made a little bit of a run back late in the game, but they handled them pretty easily. And then you had Georgia State, who beat Arkansas State and Appalachian State to get here. I think Georgia State was like a 3.5-point favorite last I looked. But it's hard to bet against the Raging Cajuns right now. They're on the roll. They have the momentum. Obviously, Georgia State also won a couple games to get here, but Louisiana had the tougher path, as the number 8 seed overall. So, I'm leaning towards Georgia State, but I think it should be a close game and should be a fun one.
Yeah, you mentioned it. Jordan Brown, pretty much their leading scorer for Louisiana, about 15 points a game. Louisiana, though, not a good free-throw shooting team, which is going to be one of their biggest things coming down to the end of it, hitting your free throws. But they've proved to be very well this tournament, beating Troy as of late, and then beating Texas State with 3 throws, along with University of Texas Arlington. But yeah, obviously, but the thing about Georgia State, they're on a 9-game winning streak too. They got hot at the right time too. So it's a battle of the winning streaks here. You have a 9-game winning streak against Georgia State, who has gone their way. Went from the bottom to the top of the Sun Belt. Got that bye and have beat their opponents to get to this point, which was Appalachian State and Arkansas State in a very good game. Louisiana, obviously, you mentioned it. So I think it's going to be a very interesting game tonight. It's just to see who's going to be the better team. Obviously Georgia State's a more defensive team. They steal the ball about 10. They average about 10 steals a game, which is very impressive. Average about 4.5 blocks. They do not have a good field goal shooting percentage, though. They only shoot about 40%, which is a little under 500, obviously, but with a heavy defense compared to a Louisiana offense, which is more prolific and more high scoring, it's going to be a good game. It's probably going to come down to the wire once again. Obviously, that's why it's a 3.5-point favorite. Maybe a couple free throws, final shots. I do have Georgia State edging this one out, but don't sleep on Louisiana. Obviously, now they've woken pretty much everyone in the Sun Belt up as a threat in this tournament, and we'll see what they do tonight against Georgia State. Another matchup for the championship tournament is out of the Southern Conference, the SoCon. Finally, we have a 1-2 matchup. Doesn't seem like we have that many of those, but we have a 1-2 matchup. Number 1 seed out of the SoCon tournament, the Chattanooga Mocs. They will be playing against the Furman Paladins tonight in the Southern Championship. Chattanooga. They have pretty much dominated the conference, 14-4 overall, 26-7 overall on the season, 14-4 in the conference, And then Furman right behind them, 22-11, 12-6 on the conference. Right now, Chattanooga is a slight favorite, but it's pretty much anyone's game at this point. They've had their battles throughout the season. I think they've split the season, if I'm not correct, between Chattanooga and Furman.
Chattanooga swept Furman.
Oh, Chattanooga swept. Okay, so they did sweep them. Obviously, this is Furman's redemption time, trying to get that bounce back win. Obviously, that first game was a 2-point win for Chattanooga, and then the second matchup was a 6-point win on the road. Ari, they've had some close battles. Who do you have coming out of the Southern Conference tonight?
I mean, obviously, many say it's tough to beat the same team 3 times in a season, but I don't know. Chattanooga has the momentum. I feel like they both won the same amount of games, obviously, but they crushed Wofford in the semis by, I think, 23. So, I don't know. Yeah, I'm leading Chattanooga, but hopefully it's a game that comes down to the wire like many other games have.
Yeah, you mentioned it. Chattanooga has a little bit of a better defense with them. They only average about 65.5 points a game compared to Furman, who averages about 69 points a game. Interior defense is a lot more better with Furman. They average about 3.5 blocks a game compared to Chattanooga 2 and a bunch of steals. So they obviously are intercepting the passes. For Furman, they obviously love to pass the ball. They average about 18 assists a game. So they love finding that open man. Chattanooga's going to have to defend that. They've already beat them twice on the season. Like you said, it's hard to beat a team 3 times in a row. But the way Chattanooga's looked right now, obviously beating Wofford very comfortably in the semis yesterday to get to the finals tonight. And for Furman, obviously a close game, very, very close game against Sanford yesterday. Resulted in their win. Also a very close game against Mercer in the first round that when it got down to the wire, Furman did escape with the win. Honestly, I think Chattanooga is going to pull this one out, obviously. I think they're going to, go for the sweep, clean sweep, get all 3 wins against the same team, get back into the tournament for the first time since, I think, 2016. But this should be a pretty entertaining game. Obviously, we know Furman very offensive. When they're offensive on the court, obviously, they like to pass the ball, find the open man. And with Chattanooga, they like to, just play heavy defense, play man, up in your face, between ball and hoops. So it's going to be an interesting matchup tonight. I obviously do have Chattanooga pulling this one out. I believe Chattanooga is a 2.5-point favorite. So this is even closer. This is pretty much a toss-up. This is coming down to the last points, last 3 throws. So this is going to be a good game tonight. But we don't have only tonight for conference titles. We have throughout all the week. But tonight we're going to focus on some of the semifinals. The West Coast Conference, obviously the number 1 seed, Gonzaga, number 1 seed overall in most tournaments right now. They play tonight against San Francisco, both tournament teams right there. Great story for the San Francisco Dons. great season that on this year, beat BYU on Saturday to get here. And then the other semifinal is St. Mary's, the 2 seed out of the West Coast. They are currently a 6 or 7 seed in a lot of projections of tournaments right now. They play Santa Clara tonight. Santa Clara is not in the tournament, but they've had a great season out of the West Coast Conference. Future is bright for Santa Clara. Ari, are we going to see a rematch of Gonzaga and St. Mary's tomorrow in the championship game? How you feeling about the future of this conference, and can San Fran pull off the upset?
I mean, I want to say it was like 2 or 3 weeks ago when these two teams played last, and there was some talk of it being a close game, and it was kind of close a little bit early, but then Gonzaga won by I think like 16, if I remember correctly, against San Francisco a few weeks ago. So they're 14.5-point favorites tonight. I think they definitely they have their they have the championship against potentially St. Mary's circled as a revenge game after losing to them last time. So I think they'll be determined to win fairly easily, and then we'll see St. Mary's, who's a 4.5-point favorite over Santa Clara, take care of their business. And I think we'll get that rematch in the West Coast Conference Championship.
Yeah, you mentioned it. West Coast Conference, obviously. It's usually a 2-bid league. Obviously, maybe again like Gonzaga and like a St. Mary's or BYU, but now they have turned into a 3-bid school. So congratulations to them. Potentially almost 4. BYU now on the outside looking in because of their loss to San Francisco on Saturday. So BYU is going to need a lot of magic to happen on that bubble. But anyways, back to this tournament. Obviously, yeah, San Francisco, they're in. They locked themselves in with the win against BYU on Saturday. So San Francisco, obviously, they want to, avenge their loss. That happened a couple weeks ago to Gonzaga, and I believe that was at home. Yes, it was in San Francisco. So that was a close loss for them. But obviously Gonzaga, most dominant team in the country right now next to Arizona. So, I mean, for Gonzaga, it's just playing good old basketball like they always do. St. Mary's, obviously, yeah, I think they're going to pull it out against Santa Clara too. St. Mary's, obviously, they had a couple slip-ups in this conference, but for the most part have had pretty much a dominant run as well. I pretty much see the trilogy part 3 between Gonzaga and St. Mary's. Obviously, Gonzaga beat St. Mary's when they were at home in Gonzaga and then lost the final game of the regular season at St. Mary's. Pretty much this conference is always looking pretty good, and now it's looking even better. So this is going to be an exciting couple of semifinal games tonight. I would definitely go with Gonzaga St. Mary's rematch tomorrow for the West Coast Conference title. But we do have some other matchups as well as we get more and more into the week. Those tournament semifinals were tonight at 6 and 8:30. But on Wednesday, we do have the start of the Pac12 tournament. Games did finish up on Saturday, and the full tournament reads off as on the screen here. Number 1 seed is Arizona. They have won the Pac-12 tournament, and they will receive a bye. And they will be playing the winner of Arizona State and Stanford on Wednesday. ASU getting hot. Art, you mentioned it. Arizona State, look where they are.
Now they have to run through Arizona, so that's tough. But
yeah, it's tough. Well, congratulations. You have a first-round matchup with Stanford. Now you got to play your state rival, who's the best team in the conference. Not good. So that's gonna be a good matchup in the first round. Then we have Colorado, who did clinch the 4th seed. After a wacky tiebreaker situation, Colorado did get the last bye. They clinched the 4 after winning and beating Utah, so they didn't have to worry about that. And the 5 out of all the tiebreakers is Oregon, and they'll be playing Oregon State in the first round, a little rivalry game between Oregon and Oregon State. That 5-12 matchup right there. Oregon State, just not their year this year. Very just horrible in conference and overall record. So hopefully next year is their year for them. The number 2 seed out of the Pac-12 is UCLA. UCLA did beat USC in their final game of the regular season to pretty much decide who was going to be the 2 and the 3. UCLA won, so UCLA will be the 2, and they'll be playing the winner of the first round match between my school, obviously, Go Cougs, Wazoo, and the 10 seed California. Cal, they're losing Matt Bradley, and that kind of shows their offense is just not the same. Meanwhile, Wazoo, they're starting to get hot at the right time again. I mean, beating Oregon and Oregon State back-to-back this past weekend put WSU in this position to be the 10 seed. So great shout out to them. Great school, obviously great school, but program is heading in the right direction. And finally, in the Pac-12, we have the 3 seed as USC, the Trojans. They did have a pretty good regular season. They've been very under the radar pretty much all season. Not a lot of people really taking them seriously, but they sit about 25-6, number 3 in the Pac-12, and they will be playing the winner of UW and Utah, the first round matchup on Wednesday. Ari, out of the first round, do you see any potential Cinderella runs like Oregon State last year? We already mentioned Arizona State, but they have a tough challenge the next round. So out of this first round, who do you see potentially making it to the semifinals?
We talked about ASU. They've played U of A tough a couple of times, but I don't see them prevailing. I don't know how did the Cougars fare against UCLA in the regular season? Not good.
Let's just say we had a better chance against USC than UCLA.
I think realistically, I think it's pretty clear that Oregon has the best shot out of these first round teams to kind of make a run past the second round against Colorado in round 2. I think UCLA, like you said, they should handle the Cougars pretty easily, assuming if they beat Cal. I don't know, the Huskies. USC's been up and down. So if the Huskies beat Utah, they could have a shot. If Terrell Brown can really step up as a scorer, Dejon Davis, all those guys, I think they're going to really need obviously, for the most part, they live and die by Terrell Brown, Washington. So I think it's possible Washington can give USC some trouble, but I think Oregon definitely has the best run, the best path to make a run to at least the semifinals. But ultimately, I do believe we'll see a rematch round 3 between Arizona and UCLA in the championship. What's your thoughts, Korea?
Yeah, definitely. I see Oregon pretty much coming out as pretty much one of the bigger favorites, maybe make an advance to the semis, beating Colorado in the second round. And I'm not going to lie, the Cougs have a slim chance if they make it to place UCLA, but in that game where the Cougs, because we only played them once this year, Cougars just could not shoot the ball, and we live and die by the 3, so if we're not shooting the ball well, we're not going to win the game. In that game, WSU, back in, I think it was February, WSU did shoot only 23% from 3-point range, 28% from the field, while UCLA, they were hitting 50% of their shots and 50% behind the arc. It was a close game for some stretches, but obviously UCLA just got the bare end of it and just took it. So if Wazoo gets hot and just hits their threes and hits their shots, then they have a chance to beat UCLA in the second round. But other than that, I do definitely see Oregon definitely being one of the bigger favorites. Obviously a bigger radar on Oregon, considering they are pretty much around that first 4 out bubble range. And a lot of people are saying Oregon is on the outside looking in right now because of all the bubble shenanigans that have been happening in the past few days. And along with Oregon pretty much getting beat down on the road by Wazoo, so that did not help them at all. So Oregon, they got some work to do. But obviously, I agree with you. I can see Arizona versus UCLA being the Pac-12 Tournament championship game on Saturday, and I definitely do see Arizona winning again just because of how dominant they've been all year. Only a couple losses, but still, you just see how they easily just ran through this conference, and no one really had them. They had them up there, but no one really took them for real until later in the season.
A lot of predictions had them as like a 6 or 7 team in the conference. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's right. No one took this team seriously because of obviously first year head coach out of Gonzaga. Was it Tommy Floyd, I believe?
Lloyd.
What?
Tommy Lloyd.
Yeah. Tommy Lloyd. Yeah, I knew it was Floyd or Lloyd. But yeah, obviously Arizona had a bunch of questions coming into this season with obviously the whole Archie Miller's investigation this past season.
Sean Miller.
Oh my goodness. It's a Monday, guys. It's a Monday. But yeah, so obviously Arizona, they pretty much turned around their identity. Great season for the Wildcats. I think they win this tournament pretty easily. They probably will have a little bit of a slip up depending on who they play in those semifinals. If it is Colorado, then that could potentially make things interesting just because of the last time these two teams played. Obviously, Colorado did get the victory, but this is obviously a new Arizona. This is not a new Arizona team, but this is a different Arizona team. in a different environment from that Colorado game. So I see Arizona making it to the championship game. And out of that bottom region, I can see definitely a UCLA USC rematch in the semis. Winner goes to the championship game. You mentioned obviously UW. They really rely on Terrell Brown, so that's pretty much a hit or miss for USC. But I do see the Huskies do playing pretty competitively against USC. And for Wazoo UCLA, depending on who gets out of the first round, if Wazoo hits the shots, they're going to make them competitive. But I see UCLA getting out of that. Same for USC, and then UCLA going on to the Pac-12 championship. And honestly, I can see UCLA making it a good game in that Pac-12 championship game against Arizona on Saturday night. But I do have the Wildcats prevailing in that matchup. But it's going to be a good tournament. I don't see that many upsets just because of the matchups. But yeah, this starts on Wednesday at about 12 p.m. Pacific time, 3 Eastern. And now we head into the very long one, the ACC tournament. This one starts tomorrow and goes all the way until Saturday. We have our matchups here on the screen for you. So clinching the double byes, we have number 1 seed overall Duke. We have the number 2 as Notre Dame. The 3 is UNC after getting that big win at Duke on Saturday. Obviously, Coach K's last game inside Cameron Indoor. And then the number 4 seed is the Miami Hurricanes. Obviously, all 4 of those teams are tournament teams and pretty much locks for right now. Obviously, UNC, Notre Dame, and Miami can all use a win to, boost their tournament resumes a little bit. And then the 5 seed is going to be Wake Forest. That's another team that needs, kind of just boost their tournament resume a little bit. The 6, who is the 6, Ari? I can't really see
Virginia.
that. Oh, that is Virginia. That's right. So the 6 is Virginia. Virginia, they had that decent start to the tournament. No, decent start to the season, but then it just kind of all fell apart when I started losing games. And I believe pretty much every team under them is kind of, you have to win your tournament you have to win your tournament to get in. Obviously, we have number 7 as Virginia Tech. We have the 8-9 matchup as Florida State and Syracuse in the second round. In our first round matchups, we have the 10 as Clemson versus the 15 as NC State. We have the 12 as Pitt versus the 13 Boston College, and the 11 as Louisville versus the 14 Georgia Tech. Obviously, this is a long tournament that's going to take a few days. I can definitely see a team like a Wake Forest, like Georgia Tech did last year. They went on that big run as the 4 seed with a little help from, COVID to help them get to that championship game. But who do you see coming out of this tournament? It's kind of interesting because Duke is the favorite, but a lot of people are saying that Duke is not going to win this tournament. I could see definitely like a UNC if they keep their momentum off the win against Duke on Saturday. I could see them winning it. If Wake Forest, just gets on that hot run, I could see Wake Forest out of the second round making it to the championship game. Ari, who do you have? Who do you have in this tournament?
Let's see. So I think I'm gonna stick with the square pick in Duke here, but I do think that, like you said, UNC, Wake Forest, if they get hot, we've seen flashes from Virginia Tech this year, so I think this definitely is, even though Duke, like you said, is a favorite, it's definitely a pretty open tournament overall, with I would say a handful of teams that could win if they get hot. I mean, obviously, you could say that about any tournament. If a team gets hot, they could win it. But I'm going to stick with Duke as the tournament winner.
Hello.
But I do think that. Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh.
Hey, Luke, I'm so sorry. I'm in the middle of recording a podcast. Can I? Busy. So I Sorry, business had to come. Literally, my interview call literally called like right now, and he said he couldn't do it at 1. And I was like, "Can we do it 1?" Oh, it's a mess. But
Did you
I'm
get it all
back.
worked out?
Yeah, it's working out now.
Okay.
But had me shaking for a little bit. But we're back. Okay, where were we? ACC.
Yeah.
Honestly, I could see a team like Virginia Tech. Obviously, Virginia Tech's right on that bubble. If they make it out, honestly, I could see them running through this conference. Virginia Tech is kind of that one team that needs like a solid run, like a very, very solid run, pretty much to the semis to potentially be in the tournament with potentially wins over Notre Dame and UNC, along with their second round matchup, whoever comes out of Clemson and NC State. But yeah, you mentioned Duke. They always look like the favorite. They're always dominant. Obviously, that team is just so good. Paolo Banchero and just all those players. But, we said that last year about, just being like a team that was a favorite. I think it was, who was the number 1 seed? I think it was like Virginia or Florida State or someone. And they got upset early. So this tournament's pretty much, it's not wide open, but obviously Duke being that dominant team obviously kind of puts the picture right there, like the target on their back. That's the team to beat in this conference. But I do see like potentially like UNC, Wake Forest, or Duke winning this whole thing. And we move on to the next one, which is the Big 12 tournament. This one is really interesting and actually one of the more exciting ones because the Big 12 has a lot more teams into the tournament for their whole in terms of the percentage. I think they have about like 7 or 8, 6 or 7 teams in the tournament out of the 12 teams in their conference. Out of the 10 teams in their conference. So more than half of the teams in the Big 12 are in. But right now, the matchups are locked in. Baylor clinched the number 1 overall seed in this tournament, and they'll play the first round matchup winner between Kansas State and West Virginia. We have a 2-7 matchup between Baylor and Oklahoma. We have a 3-6 matchup between Texas Tech and Iowa State. And the 4-5 matchup is Texas and Texas Christian University, also known as TCU. This one's going to be more intriguing in terms, getting to the semifinals because obviously we have Texas, TCU, Texas Tech, Baylor, Kansas, Iowa State. They have 6 teams in right now into the field pretty much comfortably. K-State and Oklahoma, they need to win the title, or Oklahoma's right there on the outside looking in, but Oklahoma, they would need pretty much to get to the championship game in order to, pretty much be in that tournament talk again, beating not only Baylor, but whoever comes to that Texas Tech, Iowa State matchup. But Ari, this one is pretty much more intriguing till we get to the championship, but I think right now my safe bet is Baylor. They were the defending champs. They know how to get it done. They've been in this position before. They just look dominant. But Kansas always does their thing. Kansas, they have that matchup. I believe that's Kansas, or is Kansas the number 1?
Kansas number 1, yeah.
Oh, that's right. Kansas is number 1. So Kansas, they have to wait for K-State or West Virginia. Honestly, I do believe that K-State will probably get out of that, but obviously, I have Kansas moving on. That Texas-TCU matchup is going to be a little more intriguing, but I do have Texas prevailing right there. Baylor-Oklahoma. Baylor has obviously been dominant all year. And then Texas Tech, Iowa State. It's just going to be in that Baylor-Texas Tech matchup is going to be very good to watch. But I see Kansas-Baylor making it, and then potentially Baylor winning the whole thing. Ari, what are your thoughts?
I'm going with Texas Tech in this one. I like the balance of kind of defense and offense that they have a lot. I think we'll see Texas Tech beat, I'll say Kansas in the championship. But as you said, I think that Texas Tech Baylor in the semis, assuming they both move on, it's going to be a really fun game. And yeah, I think Texas could be a sneaky, but I don't know. I feel like they're away from home. Texas is too inconsistent, I feel like, but they definitely have the firepower to potentially make a run. A lot, like all these teams have kind of been inconsistent on the year, but Baylor is kind of turning out at the right time. But I like Texas Tech in this one.
Yeah, you mentioned that Texas Tech Baylor matchup. I pretty much it's going to be for the championship, honestly. I mean, Texas Tech always very dominant. They always like to have deep runs. Baylor, obviously defending champs. So you mentioned it. I think it's going to be either Texas Tech or Baylor as well. One of those two teams are probably definitely going to be winning this tournament. And we head into the final tournament, one of the bigger ones to really keep note of for that bubble, the Big Ten tournament. They start Wednesday and end on Sunday. The matchups are as followed on your screen. So clinching the double bye to the quarterfinals is the number 1 seed overall in Illinois, who won a share of the regular season title with the number 2, which is Wisconsin. You have the number 3 as Purdue, and then the 4 as Rutgers. So Rutgers, they're sitting pretty comfortably right now heading into their tournaments now, being the double bye and, having that little bit of buffer. But they do have a tough matchup if it happens. We have the 5 seed is Iowa. They lost to Illinois in the final game yesterday, so they have fallen down to the 5 spot. Then we have the 6 is Ohio State. Ohio State is trending in the wrong direction right now, but they do have a favorable, obviously, matchups with whoever they get out of the first round, and then potentially with Purdue, obviously. And then we have a 7-10 matchup, between Michigan State and Maryland. Michigan State, obviously, this team is up and down all around. We've been talking them all year. They played very close yesterday to Maryland, but Michigan State did get the win as the season, to close up the season at home. But now this is neutral site, so this is going to be interesting to see the rematch of what happened literally just yesterday. And then the game of the conference, pretty much to circle right there, is Indiana-Michigan. That is the game of the conference. You put a big circle around who is the game of the conference, Indiana-Michigan, because both teams are right on that bubble. Indiana is on the outside looking in. Michigan is on the inside, trying not to be on the outside. And I think Michigan, a lot of people are saying Michigan are safe, but a win would definitely, help them be more comfortable in this tournament. For Indiana, they got some work to do. They got to have a run. They got to beat Michigan, and I'm fairly certain they got to beat Illinois if they really want to go farther in this tournament. We also have matchups in the first round, 10 versus 13, which is Minnesota versus Penn State. And then I believe 12-13 is Northwestern. 12-13 is Northwestern versus Nebraska. Nebraska pulling off the upset win yesterday against top-ranked Wisconsin. And then the 11-14 matchup is Penn State, who always gives some teams some trouble, especially Rutgers in this conference against the last place Minnesota. My favorite out of this conference is definitely going to be Illinois. Illinois knows how to get it done. They did it last year. So I think Illinois can definitely have that big run that, as a lot of people are predicting to have them in this tournament. But don't sleep on a Purdue or a Wisconsin. Rutgers may need a couple wins in there, so we could see Illinois Rutgers in the semifinals on Saturday. That'll be interesting to see. But Ari, what are your biggest thoughts on it? Do you think Indiana-Michigan is the big game? And who do you have coming out of this tournament?
Yeah, so I'll start. I have Illinois as well coming out. I agree that Indiana and Michigan, they're both, as you said, right, either like inside, right on the inside, right on the inside, or right on the outside. So I think the winner of this has a good shot making it. I agree Indiana might have to win 2, whereas Michigan, I think with 1 win, they're pretty safely in. Wisconsin, they lost Johnny Davis to an injury, and then they lost to Nebraska. We've seen all season they've been inconsistent. The Wisconsin coach said he expects Johnny Davis to be okay, but I don't know. If Johnny Davis doesn't play, I think potentially they could be in trouble against the winner, Michigan State, Maryland. I think Rutgers, Iowa could be a good game in the quarters if Iowa wins. But Nebraska, I believe they've won 3 in a row, 2 of them coming against Wisconsin and Ohio State. So they're coming in hot. So it's going to be tough for them to beat Iowa if they beat Northwestern. But I think, Iowa kind of lives and dies, by the shooting from deep for the most part. So if they get cold, they could be in trouble. But I think I'm going Illinois over Purdue in the championship of this tournament.
Yeah, it's close. You mentioned the big loss for Wisconsin, Johnny Davis. That's a big loss for them. And, I mean, obviously you mentioned coach expects him to be okay, but Michigan and Michigan State, they have a lot to win. Wisconsin has nothing to lose. They're already in. So that could be an intriguing matchup depending if Michigan State wins. So if Michigan State wins, I think that's going to be a more intense game than Maryland winning potentially. You mentioned Iowa. Obviously, they live and die by the 3. And so that Rutgers-Iowa potential quarterfinal matchup could be interesting. Obviously, the big one, Indiana-Michigan. I don't think either one will get a win against Illinois either before they make the second round, honestly, just because of how dominant Illinois has been throughout the late part of the stretch here. But yeah, this tournament right now is looking like Illinois versus Purdue. That game's going to be electric next Sunday. I do have Illinois. I have Illinois holding out probably in that matchup just because Wisconsin, the questions about Johnny Davis and, if they can make it to that semifinal, potentially championship run.
Yeah, I was going to say, I know Wisconsin, right, they swept Purdue in the regular season, but I don't know, with Johnny Davis, even if he plays, if he's like a little banged up, that could leave him vulnerable. So I think Purdue, like I said earlier in the episode, where it's hard to be a team 3 times in the season, this is where I'm going to take that here and go Purdue beats Wisconsin if they match up in the semis.
Yeah, definitely. Very excited to see how this tournament plays out. But before we go, I saw the craziest thing just break on Twitter. Wide receiver Calvin Ridley has officially been suspended from the NFL for, get this, betting on games. Yes, this is coming out on Twitter right now. Falcons wide receiver suspended for the 2022 seasons for the whole season for betting on NFL games last year. Ari, I need your immediate thoughts.
What the?
That's what I said. That's what I was looking at because I was just looking at my phone here, and I see wide receiver Calvin Ridley is now suspended for.
I see he tweeted yesterday. I learned from my L's, so I guess he knew. What the heck?
So obviously this is something big. Obviously, if you don't know the Calvin Ridley situation, he left mid-season last year due to quote-unquote personal reasons. No one really knew what was going on.
Is that the personal reason?
But I guess people can assume now this is the personal reason. I guess there was some inside situations going on, and I guess Calvin Ridley was illegally gambling on other NFL games, and now he is officially suspended for the whole 22 season. So how does this look for the Falcons? Obviously, Calvin Ridley is kind of like a big name potentially leaving Atlanta, but now he's not even going to play anymore. So where does this leave Calvin Ridley? Obviously, a lot of people, you know him as pretty much one of the bigger wide receiver threats for fantasy. He's always been around that wide receiver 2 conversation. Definitely leaning. Everyone thought he was going to have that big year this year until obviously he left due to quote unquote personal reasons. But now we found out it could be due to these illegally gambling scenarios where he's now suspended. Ari, thoughts?
Tom Pelissero saying that he did it after he left the team, so it's still, that might not be the personal reasons. That might have been still more serious. But I saw another tweet. It was like he left the NFL to bet NFL games just like the rest of us. Absolute pioneer. So yeah, I mean, obviously they were expecting to get Calvin Ridley back this year, so obviously that leaves a big hole. You have Kyle Pitts there for Atlanta, but then other than that, for receiver, you have Russell Gage. So I assume they're going to address our receiver this offseason with free agency starting, I believe, next week, I believe it is, and the NFL draft in a month. So one of those places, I'm assuming we'll see Atlanta address the wide receiver position. But yeah, definitely shocking news. I don't think anyone expected to get this news today.
Yeah, I did not see this coming. I just saw it on my phone. It said breaking news, the NFL suspended Ridley. But yeah, a little more clarification on the scenario. We'll get you all of that and more NFL news on Wednesday's episode. We'll give you some breakdowns of the combine. We give you some free agency predictions as we head into the first week of free agency that starts next Wednesday, which is already right around the corner. It's crazy. And yeah, so thank you guys for tuning in. It was a little longer than we anticipated, but we're still here. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of AKP Sports Talk. We'll see you guys Wednesday for just a huge NFL breakdown.